I think whichever way I start this video, it's going to be very cringy, but I will just say hello and welcome to my first league racing post-com video. We're here for Cwr1 round 5, I think so, at Spa, and a wet Spa, full wet at the start of qualifying. It's going to be a fully wet weekend, no dry conditions at all, so I'm running a full wet setup. This was a race I think I did about a week and a half ago, and one that I think was worth sharing. Starting the first lap here, I had a really nice setup coming in this. I didn't do too much practice, but a really nice guy gave me a setup. And it's a tricky track, this, even in the dry, and in the wet it's even more tricky. First gear for the first corner here, this is just getting a feeling for the track. It's going to get a little bit drier towards the end of qualifying, so just getting a lap on the board at the moment and trying not to spin up through Eau Rouge, which is not quite flat out, but very close to it, and staying within the track limits early on. This season so far, at this point, I'd had, I think, 3 podiums in the first 4 races, all third places, so I was looking for my first win. Towards the end of this lap, it felt a decent lap so far, not invalidated, but still plenty of time, and through to the final sector. Cwr1 a little bit scared through there, a little safety lift, and through the final couple of corners. This was a really nice corner with this setup. Not a corner I particularly like in the dry, but one I do like in the wet. My first lap with about 30 minutes to go in the session was, I think, 55.6, a little scum across the line, put me P4 at the moment, and I went and tried to improve a little bit later on, and let me see, I'm purple through sector 1 and finding a lot of time, which is what you can often do in the wet, just take a slightly different line and then find some time. First gear through there felt really nice as well, as then I'm still maintaining that 10th gap as I enter the final sector before I think the track proves just how difficult it really is. I get a little bit damaged, really lucky not to lose a wheel there. Just getting on the power too early, I think it shows how on the limit of grip I was really operating at the moment. This was a lap I did later on, as you can see, 5 minutes left on the clock. And into the final corner, about 5/10 up so far. This, as you see, another slide there. It was a good time, it puts me P5, but only a 10th or so off pole position. And but there was a lot of time there, and we're going to keep on board for this lap then, which was my best lap of the session. Through turn 1, a little bit of a squirm on the exit, but really nice straight on the throttle, and then up through Eau Rouge. Absolutely no backing out. It is very, very slightly drier. I did actually lift there, I couldn't remember doing that, but keeping a very straight line, and now along the Camel Straight towards the Le Com chicane, using a lot of curb on the right, and then down into 3rd gear, and then using all of the curb on the left, and then on the right here again. You can see I get a lot of time on the delta here, and again get a really nice exit, and I'm already a 10th up, red through sector 1, but through sector 2 finding a lot of time, holding in 2nd through here, which was nice, and then getting a nice exit as well. Was pretty much the best I've done that few set of corners. That's where I found a lot of time. There's still time, like you saw the squirm at the last lap I did in the final corner, so I'm just keeping this as flat as I can. I'm in a party with a lot of the front right guys at the moment, like Preston Rhythms, which is why there's no gameplay audio other than me talking, because I don't want to have that contradict over the top. I'll have to remove the party audio from clips in future. As through the next couple of corners we go, now 4/10 up, and then this is where I find just so much time on the exit, getting it really, really nice on throttle, purple through the middle sector, as you can see. And this was a very nice lap so far. Then this is all flat out, even in the wet conditions. It shows just how much grip these cars have. And through Cwr1, which is alright, lifted on the first lap, no such stuff here, completely flat, using the curb on the outside just a little bit, and then into the final chicane. About 4 minutes left on the clock. Inside curb is used, and glitching a little bit there, which isn't nice. Across the line, 7/10 up, and on pole position at the moment by nearly 6/10 of a second. That was one of the best laps I've ever done in an actual qualifying session. As we come to the end of the session, you'll see that that was enough for pole. And my first pole position in this league. As you can see, everyone else not able to. It was 3/10 in the end. It was a really nice lap, but I didn't know it was that good. I haven't won a race in this league before up to this point. My best was P3, and well, let's see if I can turn this into a win. The start of the race, it's as you can see, you're going to get a little bit drier towards the end of the race, perhaps into conditions, but starting off full wet, it's nearly a 3-stop, because the tyre wear is actually pretty bad at this track. And so warming the tyres up the best I can on the formation lap. At this point, I didn't really know what I was looking for. That pole position lap came out of nowhere. I realistically wasn't expecting to be in the top 6. I'm usually very good in wet conditions, but this setup just felt lovely. Like, I could get on the power so very early, and that was really nice. The formation that important to warm up the tyres, because I knew that leading this race the whole way through is going to be something that is going to be really important trying to win this race. Not something I'm very good at in league racing. I'm typically like to be behind a car rather than in front of them. But pulling onto the right hand side, this start is going to be absolutely crucial here as we wait for the rest of the grid to form up. I haven't done too many wet starts in this game, but I tried to keep my composure as we wait for the last few guys to ready up. We get the first light, the second, the third, and the fourth and the fifth. I didn't quite know how much throttle to get on, so I get a little bit of wheel spin off the start, but Rytham's next to me. As much as he gets a better launch, he just doesn't have the line into turn one, and then brakes a little bit too late, gets out of shape, and we managed to hold the lead convincingly in the end. A little bit of a swerve on the exit. As you can see, Rytham's had a little bit of a half spin. There was a lot of chaos at turn one, which I thankfully managed to stay out of, and already a 1.4 second lead, a perfect start in many ways as I head through Eau Rouge the first time, not even taking that close to flat out shifting down a gear. This wasn't quite as wet a track as qualifying as far as I was aware at this point. It definitely was going to get dry. I was very aware of that onto the first time through the La Source hairpin. Third gear again through there, and my big rivals in this race I was looking at were the likes of Rythams and Preston Williams, who've dominated the championship. You see Harry F1 Hub, who's another really fast guy, I think qualified second on the Gresh, is out. The safety car is deployed, and a chance just to reset. I was very happy with the start. I don't lead many safety car restarts, so this was a new experience, but F1 Hub was one of the guys I was really worried about. He had a lot of pace normally, and was the closest to me in qualifying, I think. Rythams, as you can see, now behind me, the one I'm worried about, and it becomes at this point getting a clean safety car restart and trying to build that thing again. The safety car is in at the end of lap 3. I'm not very good at safety car restarts because I'm not leading races very often, and I decided just to keep this as safe as possible. I wanted to get as clean an exit as I could to not mess this one up, because I realised around this point there's a real chance I could win this race, and so that's exactly what I was aiming to do. See, I get the power on. Rythams gets a pretty equal restart, but he can't react in time, and I maintain the lead as I go through turn 1 on lap number 4. And so as you can see, getting a pretty clean exit through the first corner. Had a lot of fuel in the ERS to play with at this point. Actually, Matt Marr managing to overtake Rythams, and that was really good for my race, because certainly mentally at this point, and that's a lot of the problems in these races where you're not used to racing at the front, is keeping yourself stable mentally so you don't make these mistakes. And Matt Marr is a very quick driver, no disrespect to him, but I didn't at this point hold him to the same level almost as Rythams and Preston, and Cremo even in 5th place at the moment. So I was really confident to keep him behind at this point, and really just focusing on nailing my lines. You can see purple through sector 1 as you would expect, because we had a safety car on lap 1, but through sector 2 as well as we enter the final lap. Timbed retires from the session. We get another virtual safety car. A hectic race, only 15 cars left after the first few corners, and already you can see I had a 1.6 second lead after that, and that was really nice. I left a lot on the table because I did not want to be getting a drive through, as you can probably understand when you're not used to leading a race. Slightly missed the apex of turn 1 there, but very confident at this point. Although at this point, the rain, it started to ease off, and I was very happy on these wet tyres. They felt very nice. The car felt nice. I was managing my pace. I didn't want to make a mistake and push to the same level as I was in qualifying, because it's so hard to overtake in wet conditions, even at a track like this with incredibly long straights, as Tim leaves the session. A shame for him. But I was just keeping on focus. But as you can see, it's visually getting drier and drier on lap 5 now. Missing the apex slightly there, but just keeping it composed, keeping that gap around 1.5 seconds, which is important. Cream up to 5th as Preston actually decided to pit at the end of the previous lap, and so he was what I was worried about here. It's definitely towards into conditions. The wet's still probably a decent tyre. There's still a lot of standing water. The rain's still heavy coming down, but I am going to decide to pit at the end of this lap. I just thought it was the best decision to try and cover off Preston and make sure I didn't lose the lead of this race. When you're leading a race, you just got to do everything you can to keep it that way. My teammate pits behind me as well, which is a shame for him. We weren't in a party together, but that's fine. I get a little bit held in the pits as well there by, I think, the Renault of XRT Cremo, which was a shame. But the Inter tyres on. I hadn't done any practice on the Inters, just on the wet, so I was interested to see what they were like. And now, as you can see, Preston on the left-hand side there, coming down the main straight. And we are out just ahead of him, but he gains so much time. I had a mega outlap on those tyres, and now as we head up the Camel Straight, he's got a fantastic run. I'm going to open the DRS, of course. There's no DRS. I'm going to use the overtake and the fuel to defend with what I can. But at this point I was just thinking, do you know what, I've got better tyres, I'm confident in these conditions, I don't want to fight it too hard. I got deep into the corner and I just back out of this one. Eventually I decide, you know what, I'm quicker than Preston, I've got more ERS than him, I've got more confidence here, and I can get him back later on. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do here on lap 7. It's still crucial to keep the pace up a lot. I lost a bit of time going deep there, so I'm under threat from the likes of Rythens and Mount Hosted out an extra lap as I crossed the line. A purple final sector there showing I have got a lot of pace, and also showing that this track is definitely ready for the intermediate tyres at this point. Preston gets a little bit of a slide on out of turn 1, and there is Rythens on the right hand side. As you can see, I just get ahead of him, and the virtual safety car is really going to save me on the straight as Ivan retires from the session. But we're back underway under racing speed. I just need to stay within a second of Preston at this point. I've got a lap fresher tyres. It was interesting because there was 14 laps to go, and it wasn't going to be an easy one stop to the end here, so I really had to balance focusing, saving the tyres. You can see I'm very cautious on the power. I felt if I was going to spin, it was going to be out of one of the heavy traction zones. The fastest lap there, as you can see, Matmar actually takes that away from me, showing that the top 5 is really close, and also showing that Preston isn't so fast. We get a yellow flag, difficult to see because of the delta match there, but that is actually a full safety car, the second one of the race, and Preston actually decided to pit under this safety car. He stayed out a lap before, so his tyres were a bit worn. It was an interesting decision, but it hands me the lead of the race. He also got a 3-second penalty, as you can see, which probably went somewhere into describing him, because I was very comfortable staying behind him the few laps we had on the inters, catching the safety car here, and I'm hoping for a long safety car just to help with these tyres, changing the strategy there, but I'm not going to listen to that. At this point, I was already fully committed to going to the end of this race. A lot of very quick guys behind me. I think any one of the top 5 here was still in a chance of winning the race, maybe even the top 6, because Lewis in the Ferrari, who was further down, was rapid in the later stages of this race. We're going to watch all of this safety car restart. At the moment, Rytham's P2, he'd been behind me a few times in the race, but he didn't seem to have certainly the confidence almost to get past me, and Preston on those fresh tyres was the one I was really worried about, trying to come through the field. He did have that penalty though, and that was important. At this point of the race, I didn't have a warning, which is completely unlike me, as finally we get back underway. I got the nice practice last time of the safety car restart, taking a nice wide line so we can get a nice straight exit out of this corner. Still very low on the power, but getting it, and Matmar gets a nice restart, and he's, well, that's great editing from me there, but he didn't manage to overtake me. I managed to keep the lead, and on lap 13, up the hill we go. Matmar holds P2. Although, as you can see, he's getting a decent run here. I didn't really want to use too much ERS. Matmar, I was still, probably in my own head, being very disrespectful for not considering him a threat too much in this race. He got past Rythams, which was a good move. And now he's trying a move on me. He had a little look to the inside there, but I just used the ERS and managed to get the car slowed down in time. 4th gear through there now, because it's actually quite a dry track. There's a very good amount of gripper. We're not actually too far off dry pace. The fastest lap of 54.9, which is still off the pole time, which just shows how, well, nicely I hooked up that lap. But I have a lot of fuel on board here, a lot of ERS, and the last parts of these races, as I go a little bit deep into there and get on the curb, which isn't great, I'm just focused pretty much entirely on keeping this lead. I get my first warning of the race, and obviously that put a little bit of time on me. As you can see, Matmar now has a penalty. Preston got past his teammate. Working together they are to try and catch me. But I was very comfortable. I was still focused on saving these tyres. I think we'll see later on in the race that I managed to get these tyres, I think 10 or 20% less than the cars behind. It was just every traction zone was just get on the power as literally as late as I can get away with without losing a position. Not a style I'm particularly comfortable in driving. I like to be fast, but that just wasn't the way I was going to win this race, and I really wanted to win this race. Lap 17, and Preston gets himself past Matmar. Now, they've managed to hold the gap. I've still not really pulled away here, although Preston with those 3 seconds isn't going to do too much. This was probably the best chance he had on lap 19. Out of turn 1, struggling for a little bit of turning on the ladder stages there, but still getting a pretty straight exit. And then through towards Eau Rouge. Preston uses the ERS, but it's so easy to save ERS at a track with a lot of braking zones like this, especially in the wet conditions, so I don't need to do too much to defend here. Just keep it straight, keep it flat, and keep it safe to the end, which is what I was planning on doing. The end of lap 19, you can see the track's really improving, even on these worn tyres. I was finding a lot of time, and this was the bus stop she came where I was finding I put most of the time to Preston on the lap. I didn't actually get a great extra from there, but this setup was just fantastic, especially through that corner. As you can see, the gap is over a second almost as we head on the penultimate lap. The tyres there, 51% on the front. I might say I had these on since lap 6. I was very happy with that, and we'll go on to the final lap and stay with it the full way to the end, because as you can see, it wasn't smooth sailing to the end. So again, through turn 1, a difficult traction zone or race, but I did my best. The traction at this point was basically flat through the exit as well. Eau Rouge, well, it was flat for most of this race, but on this step you can see I get a little bit of a slide and I have to cut the corner. I was really lucky to get away with just a warning there and not a corner cutting penalty, which would have destroyed any hopes I had, because Cremo, as you can see, is not too far away from the penalty window, and I was lucky to that. Actually improving there, as you can see, but I wonder why that was. This entire race I just tried to keep it composed, and I had done up until this final lap. This was good. I mean, I was using no ABS. This corner is so nice in the way. I don't know what it was. It just, the rotation was fantastic. It was so nice to break through. I think there's just not as much pressure for you to get the line right perfectly every time in the wet, and I was really finding that against these guys. But Preston using everything he has to try and close up on this final lap, try and force a mistake. I get on a little bit of nasty curb through Poo, and that's going to cost me time. The gap is just 3/10 as we head down to Stavelot on the final lap. 4th gear, 3rd gear, just doing what I can to fight an apex, but I was scared at this point, using the curve. This is coming up to the part where I spun in qualifying, and I definitely didn't want to be doing that again. As you can see, 4th gear, the traction is perfect now, and Preston can do what he wants. I've still got enough ERS and fuel to just cruise this through the line. One more really difficult place where it's easy to spin, that's this next corner, which I've forgotten the name of. Blanchimont, I do believe. And through the final corner, and in a league I wasn't expecting to be nearing the win, because there's a lot of quick drivers. I'm going to cross the line and win my first ever proper F1 league race. Not quite setting the fastest lap in the end, but leading practically the whole race with a great pole position. That was a really nice race. The Mercedes, I've moved teams now. That felt very good indeed. The podium celebration was there. And I hope you enjoyed this. It wasn't the best. I'm not the greatest at talking as of yet, but I did my best. Hopefully you'll like and subscribe. And if you want to buy me a Fanatec wheel, please do, because I really need one. And goodbye.